Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Alan Rowe here, and I am going to be talking about what the Pope has said in the news. What the Pope actually said, which is quite interesting. Um, but of course, what the news media is saying. Now, did, well, how should I phrase it? Well, the fact is, I'm going to get the unofficial transcript, and I'm going to get it from a website. Let me see. Okay, this website I'm using right now is called Where Peter Is. Now, this website is essentially a Pope-splaining site. It defends Francis, whatever he says, on no matter what the topic, because the guy who runs it, Mike Lewis, is it's sad. He's a very sad individual. I hate saying this, but he does not know the least about Catholic theology or practice. He just parrots everything the Pope says, and he essentially hates practicing Catholics. But you'll notice something interesting on his website, on Where Peter Is. There is no article about this so-called statement where he approves same-sex approves the blessing of same-sex unions. You got this response to a separate Dubia, then you got some garbage with Phyllis Zagano, and you got other stuff, but you don't have any articles on him supporting him in his voice to bless homo unions. And I think the reason why is because Mike Lewis and one Peter, Where Peter Is, I was about to say 1 Peter 5, because Mike Lewis and Where Peter Is don't know where Pope Francis stands. And so basically, anyway, in the last 2 days, it's been all over. It was in Catholic media yesterday. It hit the secular media today. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So a thing about it hit the Catholic media yesterday. It hit the secular media today about how the Pope expresses his openness toward the blessing of homo unions. For example, this is what I'm not going to put up on the screen, but this is what America Magazine says. And by the way, if you want free articles from them, just load the page. Of course, you just get a few free ones. Just load the page and hit Control P very quickly and save it to a PDF. That way, you don't have to pay them any cash because they will use that cash for evil. Pope Francis expresses openness to same-sex blessings in response to cardinal critics. So some cardinals sent a Dubia. Dubia is a list of questions to the Pope back in the summer. And they're like, can you affirm the teaching on a handful of issues? And he talked about a few issues, but the controversial one is the so-called blessing of homo unions. So that's what we're going to talk about. And it's and they talk about, and of course, here's another one by Colleen Dully of America Magazine. Same-sex blessings, women's ordination, and whether doctrine can change, what Pope Francis said to the Dubia cardinals. There you go. And a thing that's interesting about Colleen Dully of America Magazine, I try getting along with these people, but it's just not working. Are liberal Catholics Catholic? Well, they're Catholic in the same way Judas was an apostle. Yes, he's officially an apostle, but he's also the son of perdition. So this is what Colleen Dolly said on her Instagram. I'm reading off here. A very fast recap of today's drama. 5 retired cardinals asked the Pope about women's ordination and gay marriage. The Pope replied saying, this in quotation marks, here's what the church teaches, but women's ordination is still something we can study, and we can discern blessing gay couples without marrying them, end quotes. In brackets, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Well, that's not even a paraphrase, that's just an out and out lie. The Cardinals didn't like his yes and responses, so they wrote him again and were like yes or no answers only. So essentially, the Pope did this. They sent the 5 cardinals sent the Dubia, sent the questions in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I affirm the true doctrine, but remember we got to be pastoral and squishy language." So we're going to go through only the part about the blessing of homo unions. I've got it up on the screen here. Question 2. So it's basically a question about homo unions. I'm not going to read the question. The church has a very clear conception of marriage, an exclusive, stable, and indissoluble union between a man and a woman, naturally open to the begetting of children. Only this union is called marriage. Other forms of union are realized only in a partial and analogous way, which is why they cannot strictly be called marriage. All right, so far so good, right? It's not a mere question of names, but the reality that we call marriage has a unique essential constitution that demands an exclusive name not applicable to other realities. It is undoubtedly much more than a mere ideal. So basically saying that's a big deal. For this reason, the church avoids any kind of rite or sacramental that could contradict this conviction and give the impression that something that is not marriage is recognized as marriage. So far, he's batting 1,000. Absolutely amazing so far. But it's about but now it's about to get a bit fun. So you got A, B, and C. Absolutely perfect doctrinaire. Let's go to D. In dealing with people, however, pastoral charity, which must permeate all our decisions and attitudes, must not be lost. The defense or objective truth is not the only expression of this clarity. Meaning, if that's not the only expression, it means it's an expression of this charity, which is also made up of kindness, patience, understanding, tenderness, and encouragement. Therefore, we cannot become judges who only deny, reject, exclude. All right, so the first 3 parts were crystal clear. Now it's like, yep, there's the doctrine. No ifs, ands, or buts. But we got to be pastoral, so something is coming up next. That something controversial is coming up next. The very clear doctrinal statements, but we got to be pastoral. Let's hear what comes next. This is the controversial one. Paragraph E. For this reason, pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by one or more persons that do not transmit a mistaken conception of marriage. Because when a blessing is requested, one is expressing a request for help from God, a plea to be able to live better, a trust in the Father who can help us live better. Let's ignore that second sentence because that's explaining why people go for a blessing and no one has any problem with that. Here's a controversial one. First sentence in paragraph E. For this reason, pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by one or more persons that do not transmit a mistaken conception of marriage. Okay. there are forms of blessing. Okay, yeah, we got to discern where the forms of blessing. Now, people say this is about blessing gay unions or gay marriages or whatnot. Okay, there are forms of blessing requested by one or more persons. Okay, how can it be a union if it's by one person? It says one or more, but does this have unions in mind? I don't know. It's unclear. By one or more, because a gay marriage or a gay union can't be one person, right? One person is a single person. Um, Here we go. That do not transmit a mistaken conception of marriage. Now, Pope Francis tells us what a marriage is earlier. That do not transmit a mistaken conception of marriage. Now, to be honest, now what does this mean? The truth is, I don't know what it means. I honestly don't know what it means. Is it a mistaken concept of marriage in the eyes of the church? Is it a mistaken concept of marriage in the eyes of society? Let me give you a hypothetical scenario. South America and Western Europe um, have Catholic nations. Now, they're not Catholic nations, they're nations with Catholic majority population. Let's just call them Catholic nations. However, most of these countries have homosexual marriage. That's law of the land. Now, now, there are Catholics outside of these countries, but they don't have homo marriages. But in the Catholic countries in Western Europe and South America, there may be one or two holdouts in South America, but for the most part, most South Americans live in countries that allow gay marriage. Okay, so what's happening is, say a couple, say two gay guys go to the courthouse in, I don't know, Brazil or Argentina or France or whatever, say, we want to get married. We'll sign the court docs and say an oath before a judge. Bam, we're married. Now, those two gay guys, presumably baptized Catholic, are married in the eyes of the state. Now they're like, oh, since we're Catholic, let's walk over to the local church and get the priest to bless our union, right? Now, okay, it says, for this reason, pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by one or more persons that do not transmit a mistaken conception of marriage. So I think if the priest blessed a gay marriage, again, marriage according to secular law, not God's law or church law, that would be transmitting a mistaken conception of marriage. Sorry, I can't bless your union because it will transmit a mistaken conception of marriage. That could be it. Now, if someone is saying that there's a blessing of gay unions here, I just don't see it. Now, the Pope could have been clear either way. Let me give you an example. When Pope Francis goes against 2,000 years of church teaching, when he's condemning the death penalty, I don't like his decision on it, but at least he's crystal clear. He is crystal clear. He's against the death penalty. It's like, we used to do this in times past when there were fair trials, but now we know better. So it's inadmissible, and we work for the abolishment of the death penalty worldwide. Wow, that's unambiguous where he stands on the death penalty. Now, how come he doesn't use the same unambiguity here? Like, I think my explanation kind of works here because there's a lot of Catholic countries that have gay marriage on the secular law books, but there could be other interpretations. But how do you get blessing of gay unions out of this? For this reason, pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by one or more person. Are they even talking about couples here? Again, one person can't be a couple, or more persons. I guess it could be a group, a couple, that do not transmit a mistaken concept of marriage. This could be fully interpreted as condemning gay blessings. But I don't know. For people that think or can see an interpretation here that could give lead to the gay union blessings, please put it in the comments. I'm interested to see. All right. The next paragraph, I'm just going to read a bit more. On the other hand, there are situations that form the objective point of view are not morally acceptable. Pastoral charity itself requires us not to treat as quote unquote sinners others whose guilt or responsibility may be attenuated by various factors that influence subjective imputability. And then he quotes John Paul II. Okay. Decisions which in certain, okay, now this paragraph's important. Decisions which in certain circumstances can form part of pastoral prudence should not necessarily become a norm. Now, pause for a second. Pastoral prudence is the same words that they use in E. For this reason, pastoral prudence must discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by one or more persons that do not should not necessarily become a norm. That is to say, it is not appropriate for a diocese, a bishop's conference, or other ecclesiastical structures to constantly and in an official way enable procedures or rites of all kind, since everything, quote, that which is part of a practical discernment in a particular situation cannot be elevated in the category of norm, because this, quote, would give rise to an unbearable casuistry, amors laetitia. Canon laws should not and cannot cover everything, nor should episcopal claim various documents and protocols, because the life of the church runs through many channels in addition to the normative ones. So these blessings don't necessarily become a norm. See, I can't make heads or tails of this. It's so confusing. He starts off with the 3 paragraphs on what a marriage is. Boom, crystal clear. The next paragraph, we got to be pastoral. And then paragraph E and F, not so much F, but G, like I can't make heads or tails. If Pope Francis said, for this reason, pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by a homosexual couple that do not well, that's not the same as a marriage or something like that. Yeah, okay, that would work. But the thing is, I can't see where you would get a blessing of a gay union here, or a gay marriage, or gay relation. Now, I don't think you could rule it out. It could be slipped in here, but I mean, it's too ambiguous, and this is what angers me about Pope Francis. He's using all this word salad, and no one can make heads or tails of it. And because it's a word salad, it allows people like America Magazine to say, "Oh, Pope Francis expresses openness to same-sex blessings." No, he didn't. I don't think he condemned it. But keep in mind, when Pope Francis wanted to condemn the death penalty against 2,000 years, actually, it's more than 2,000 years, because you have to include the old covenant as well, the Old Testament for the death penalty. So, since the dawn of man, the death penalty is permitted, Francis is going to take another route. He was crystal clear the position he took. Crystal clear. Even different than John Paul II. Because he had to change what John Paul II had put in the catechism. A lot of people don't think about that. So when he was doing that, he was crystal clear. So, is Francis endorsing same-sex blessings in this document? I don't know. I don't know. If you read it carefully, it's hard to make heads or tails of anything. Very poorly worded. That's why these 5 cardinals have submitted a new dubia, basically phrasing it in yes or no answers. Because it's like, just tell us, just be honest. Instead, America Magazine, being extremely irresponsible, shame on you, America Magazine, saying, oh, yeah, he's expressing openness for same-sex blessings. No, there's nothing like that. It's a word salad that we can't make heads or tails of. And look, I don't want to know. I think this is very insulting from Pope Francis. I mean, if he's going to depart from the norm, he has to say, look, 2,000 years of this has worked for us, but, it turns out we got to bless sodomite unions. Okay, fine. If he said that, but that's not what he said. Does he believe that? I guess he might. But he needs to tell us, he needs to tell not only those 5 cardinals, but he needs to tell the faithful, the 1 billion plus Catholics out there, what he believes. Because I think we have a right to know what our pontiff means. I mean, there's so many ambiguous things here. Anyway, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments now. I'm going to kill the stream very soon. This is meant to be a short stream. And then if there's no questions, I will just kill the stream right now. But if you have one, throw it in there. I'll wait like 30 seconds. And keep in mind that I'm the guy who always emphasizes you need to go back to the primary and early sources. I did a video with the other Paul on this. I did a video with the other Paul on this. We talked about primary sources. This has a monk who chronicled his life. Oh, there's a question here. When will you become a sedevacanist? When Pope Francis dies, and I will stop being a sedevacanist when they elect his successor. Okay, that's when I'm going to become a sedevacanist. So for about 2 weeks, when Pope Francis dies, I'll be a sedevacanist, because basically the position of the sedevacantist is so unrealistic. Alan, you're the man. Can't wait to watch this from Star. William, my good brother, I've been doing so much good research. I'll get in touch with you sometime in the next week or so. Well, thanks for the answer, Refined K9. Based. I don't like this Pope. Well, yeah, well, like it or not, he's the Pope. When will you become Pope? I don't know. I kind of wish I was Pope right now. The first thing I would do when I was Pope, if I was Pope, the first thing I would not, the first week I'm Pope, I would suppress the Jesuits immediately. Just because these people, look, America Magazine, the Jesuit magazine, what a disgraceful group of people. And yes, they're Catholics. They're Catholics in the same way that Judas is an apostle, as I'd said before. All right. When will you accept the papacy of Pope Michael? I don't even know who that is. Agreed. I hope he's replaced. I was just going to ask this. What, Pope Michael? I know Pope Michael, he died, but I guess there must be a successor following in his footsteps. Pope Michael. But no, I'm not going to follow Pope Michael. But so I'm just going to say I think I've been fair. I've looked through the text. I'm trying to make heads or tails of it. If you think you know what he says, please put it in the comments, because I want to know as much as anyone else. But it's not, I don't believe he just out and said, yeah, just discern about blessing homo unions. No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. American Magazine is lying to you. So is National Catholic Reporter, which is just as bad as American Magazine. The Pope was unclear. And he has an obligation to be clear about these important topics. Yep, because that's his job. All right, I'm going to pack it in. It's been fun, guys. I'm going to be doing a lot more streams lately. I've been doing a lot of good research, including, like, I'm just looking at this King Alfred the Great, a king who died about the year 900, give or take. I just read his biography by a guy named Asser, Asser. It's a monk. It's actually the Hebrew for Asher, who was a contemporary of Alfred the Great. And it's got a whole bunch of information about Alfred the Great, including like letters and even his will. Who he's going to leave his stuff to when he died is all in here. As you know, I actually read the sources, and that includes whether I'm studying King Alfred the Great or what Pope Francis said about something. So it's unclear what the Pope said. He could be pro-blessing union, but it's not clear there if he is. And you can read that in a perfectly orthodox way. Long story short, I don't know. I've shown you the comment. I've tried to read it myself. Anyway, God bless all of you. Pray the rosary, read the Bible. And if you're Canadian, like I am, have a happy Thanksgiving this upcoming weekend. All right, I'm out. God bless.